was a great time.
40s,
Love
you know.
that part of time. You know, it's a great time.
It really takes you back.
Yeah, it really takes so much nostalgia.
Yeah, it was
at the
good.
club.
At the club. I know you're back there like Jebediah. Throw it back, Jebediah. Hi y'all, welcome back to Makeup Mystery. My name is Sydney Nicole and I am here with my friend Cierra. All right, we are doing the Donner Party today and I'm super excited because this is a topic that I've studied multiple times. It's very interesting. It's gonna get a little nasty up in this bitch, but that's okay. Cierra, how much do you know about the Donner Party?
I mean, I know the basics.
Okay.
I know what happened. Yeah, you know, I don't know a lot of specifics.
We're gonna make it work though. So let me explain how this is gonna work. I'm gonna do Cierra's makeup while I tell her the story of the Donner Party. Throughout, I'm gonna ask her a few questions. If she gets the question right, we're gonna use a high-end, expensive, name brand makeup to complete whatever look I feel like doing today. But if she gets the question wrong, we're gonna use less recognizable brands from places like the Dollar General, Dollar Tree, Five Below, or maybe even Claire's.
Five Below sells makeup.
This is from Five Below.
I did not know that.
So
Another lesson for today.
Another Five Below has makeup. Don't you worry. Let's just go ahead. Let's jump on in. Let's just do the dang thing. Okay. You said you like thin brows. Do you want me to follow?
I like very 2003, 2004 brows.
Okay.
I don't know how that happens. We're like,
okay.
It's like Angelina Jolie brows from like 2003. I don't like them thick and full because they look terrifying.
In the 1840s, a lot of settlers were moving west in this thing known as Manifest Destiny. And Manifest Destiny was basically like a bunch of people thinking they had a God-given right to move west and spread their Anglo-Saxon views, even though nobody fucking asked for it. Mm-hmm. But you know, they were just making it work and they were gonna do it anyway and no one was really gonna stop them, you know? A lot of the people who were moving west were from like middle income kind of families. Like middle income families like we know it now didn't really exist back then. You're basically like rich or poor. So they were on like the richer side because they could afford to like move and do this. But like they also weren't like rich. They weren't rich because if they were rich, they like didn't have to go and look for new opportunities and a new life. So a lot of people who were migrating west, they were using the Oregon Trail. That was one of the most common trails. Explorers like found these trails and then would write about it to try to convince people to use them. So like they didn't have to use the Oregon Trail, but that's what most people were using. And it went from Independence, Missouri until like either Oregon or California, sometimes Washington, like basically wherever you want to go. It went through southern Idaho, it went through a little part of Utah, like you were traveling a lot, all right? This was an incredibly dangerous journey. 10% of the people who took the journey ended up dying on the way there. So like there was a good chance you were gonna die on the Oregon Trail. Here we arrived at our first question. This question will determine whether or not we use the recognizable eyeshadow or the eyeshadow that is less recognizable. So I'm gonna show you your options, all right? If you get this question right, we will be using the Urban Decay Naked Honey palette, which I love, one of my favorites, so beautiful. The Colourpop California Love palette, which you said you have, okay, go off. Or the Jaclyn Hill 2 palette from Morphe. So that's what we're using if you get this question right. If you get this question wrong, however, we will be using the LA Colors, I think it's Sweet. I think that's it. I think it's just called Sweet. The LA Colors Sweet palette from the Dollar General, or the W7 Life's a Peach palette that was from Five Below. How long was the Oregon Trail? This is an open-ended one, and I will give you a range of 200 miles in order to be correct. It is in the thousands, if that helps.
Yeah, I was gonna say it has to be in the thousands, because if I'm thinking like practically East Coast, to West Coast, so we're already.
Missouri
But
is not
it's
East
no,
Coast.
it's Midwest. I know, but to me, I'm like, we're getting closer to the East Coast. We're already in the thousands.
Yeah, Oregon.
I'm gonna say 2,200 miles.
Is that your final answer?
That is my final answer.
Were you looking at my notes?
I absolutely was not on the Lord, on my grandfather, and I only say that because I was thinking of my route from California to Tennessee. I moved out here, so I was using my mathematics.
Right. Well, that's exactly right.
Shut your.
It is 2,200.
Some cancer shit, Sydney. You know this. Ooh, I felt it. I saw it and I felt it. I swear, turn that thing. I swear, I don't need it. I swear, slap that on my face.
Over. Is this episode gonna make it to? People would travel in large parties using wagons, and the wagons also were carried by animals, usually oxen, sometimes horses or cattle or other things. And basically you could only take like a few things from your life and like what you need to build a new life in Oregon or California or Washington or wherever you're going. Like, you were traveling all this on foot, so you didn't want to take a whole bunch of stuff with you. One big thing to note about this journey is that it was crucial that you pass the Sierra Nevada mountains by October, because if not, you will get stuck there and it will snow, and it is nearly inhabitable at that point. You cross those mountains by October, because after that, there's no going back, all right? So the Donner Party was led by George Donner and his wife Tamsin, which I kind of love that name.
Wonder if he called her Tammy.
Oh, that would be cute.
Tammy! Because that's how he talked.
They also had 5 daughters. The party also included George's brother Jacob and his wife Elizabeth and their 7 children. And then there were also 6 other people who were the teamsters, and they were the people like in charge of controlling the animals and like maintaining the wagons and basically like keeping everything going. But like George Donner was in charge of this. A week before they set off, the Donner Party joined another party called the Reed Party, and then they joined an even bigger party. So we had like over 100 people in the party by the time they were, it was an actual party. Like they were ready to go off. The Donner Party and the Reed Party left Independence, Missouri on May 12, 1846. Wait, today?
Is May 12.
Oh, snap. Okay.
What?
I don't like that. That's a little, ooh, I don't like
Okay.
that. So by the time that they left in May, they were already a week late from when they should have left, but they weren't too concerned about that. I am going to backtrack for a little bit and tell you about the Hastings cutoff. So there was a man named Langford Hastings who wrote a pamphlet promoting his new route, and the route was called the Hastings Cutoff, and he said that it was supposed to be this epic shortcut on the Oregon Trail. The Oregon Trail usually goes through southern Idaho, but Hastings claimed if you went through northern Utah, you could actually like reconnect to the Oregon Trail a lot faster, and it's going to take all this time off and blah, 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 and it's going to be amazing. This seemed like a really good idea, but there was one big flaw. And here we arrive at our second question. This will determine if I can A, continue as I want to and nothing changes, or if I could only use toothbrushes for the rest of the video.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm going to need you to get this right. What was wrong with the Hastings cutoff? A, Hastings never actually did the route himself. B, there wasn't an actual trail and the terrain was extremely untamed. C, actually made the trip longer. Or D, all of the above. Or E, none of the above.
It's not E. It made the trip longer.
Final answer?
But I also feel like he did that Hastings. I feel like he was like an adventurer. Like he did do that at one point. Because how the hell could he just fucking guess and be like, yes, this is the right way. I've decided, and I have not done it myself, but yes.
Your Hastings accent is impressive.
I don't know where this guy's from. I'm gonna go with C comfortably because I know it was, but I forgot what B was. So what was that?
B was there wasn't an actual trail and the terrain was extremely untamed.
I'm just gonna go with C because I know it was longer.
All right.
But I feel like you're gonna tell me it's all of the above or some shit.
Unfortunately, The answer was D, all of the above.
Are you kidding? This fucker.
Yeah.
He was like...
When he released the pamphlet, he never had taken the cutoff himself. He's never actually explored it, whatever. Like, he kind of like sat down on the map and was like, oh, this looks like it would be a shortcut.
And these people are gonna go, fuck it, let's do it. We might die, but YOLO.
Well, they didn't know that he didn't know. They just received, so when you're traveling, you see like these pamphlets everywhere and people are like, because the Oregon Trail wasn't the only trail, so some people were like, use the California Trail, use this trail, use that trail, you know what I mean? Or a lot of times those trails led to like posts or like stop places you could stop or whatever. So they were trying to get people to use different trails so they can go to different shops or inns or whatever. So it's very common to get pamphlets. So like if you're the Donner Party, you know you already left a week late and you were given this thing like, hey, there's this really sweet shortcut that's supposed to shave a couple 100 miles off and it's gonna be really nice and whatever, you're gonna believe it and you're gonna take it. I can only use 2 brushes for the rest of this video. I'm not counting the mascara brush in this, I'm just saying that. Hastings never actually did the route himself. In fact, almost no one had done the route by this point. And the cutoff actually added an additional 100 miles to the trip. Forgot to mention this earlier, it usually was about like 15 miles a day that you traveled. So like adding 100 miles is like adding a lot of time. It's a shit ton of time you just added on if you're only traveling 15 miles a day. The Donner Party heard about the Hastings cutoff and Reed really pushed for it. The other party that they were in thought it was a great idea and they decided to take it. At this point, the group kind of split up. So the Donner Party and the Reed Party and like a couple of other people from their larger party decided to take this cutoff, and the rest of the party decided to continue on the Oregon Trail as planned. About like 90-ish people set off on the Hastings Trail, or the Hastings cutoff, on July 31st, 1846.
Hung up on this guy like I want to fight him.
I mean, fair. This was common back then. Like, think about how many people became like lawyers and doctors and like, you didn't have to really have credentials. You can just go up and be like, yeah, I'm a doctor now, and start prescribing people cocaine, and like, that was it. That was how it was back then. They found out quickly that the cutoff did not live up to any of its hype. The terrain was wild, and they had to make their own trail as they went along. Their wagons were torn up by the terrain, and they had to abandon a lot of their belongings. They were running out of food quickly, starting to run out of water, and their animals were dying from either starvation, overexertion, dehydration, whatever. So they had to stop a lot, which took more time on their trip that they did not have. By the time that they reached the Great Salt Lake Desert, they were already dying. There were already a lot of people who died, a lot of illnesses. They were running low on food and water. Half of their animals already died, and the wagon started sinking into the sand because it wasn't prepared for that kind of terrain. They did eventually finish the cutoff and rejoin on the Oregon Trail, but by that time they were so behind. They were more than a month behind, and when they reached the Sierra Nevada mountains, it was already November. The Donner Party was already too late reaching the mountains. They couldn't travel any further, and they had to stop at a lake which will later be known as Donner Lake. So it's named after them, which is nice, but like not for a good reason. They basically like settled into winter in the mountains with no supplies, almost no food, almost no water, no shelter, nothing. Quickly they realized just how bad their situation was. Oxen started to die off. A few people in the party started to die from either starvation or from freezing to death. They didn't really know how to hunt. Like one guy killed a bear pretty early on, but then after that, they didn't kill anything else or really know how to hunt or get food or anything. The lake was not yet frozen, so they could have been fishing for lake trout, but they didn't know how. So that didn't really help them either. They were going to die if they didn't soon get help. And insert here, the Forlorn Hope Party. This was a group of 17 men, women, and children who decided that they were going to, as a smaller party, try to get out the mountains and find help for the larger group. This group left on December 21st, and they tried to get out of the mountains, and they had enough rations for, each of them had enough rations for 6 days. 6 days. A few of them, not all of them, a few of them had handmade snowshoes, and like they each had one blanket, like a
single blanket.
A single blanket. Oh, this is probably a good time to mention that most of the people in the Donner Party were actually children. Like over 50% were under 18. So that makes all of this a whole lot sadder. Quickly, some of the children did turn back around in the Forlorn Hope Party, which is nice. But for the people that did stay, shit hit the fan. They went through their rations quickly, and after a few days without food, people started bringing up the unimaginable. Gnawing on some people. Cannibalism. 2 people actually ended up dying in the party anyway from natural causes, freezing death, whatever. And one night, one of the travelers, Patrick Dolan, became so delirious from the snow that he stripped off all his clothes and he ran into the snow. And a few hours later, he ended up dying. And it was at that point where the party was just completely desperate, and they said, you know what, fuck it, we're just gonna do it. We're munching on him.
Oh, did they cook him over a fire?
They did cook him, and then a few more people did actually die that night too, and they collected all of the bodies, and they like cooked them and dried them, so like made into like jerky. And they kept it for the rest of the trip. And they made it a thing so that like they separated who was who, so you didn't have to eat your own family member, because like, you know, some children were left, and they're like, we don't want you to eat Papa, so you'll eat this other guy.
Papa's friend.
Papa's buddy. Here we arrive to our last question. If you get this question right, we will use the Lancome Monsieur Big Mascara, which is like straight up one of my favorite mascaras. I was addicted to this stuff for like 2 years straight. Or we'll be using the Maybelline New York Great Lash Mascara. And before you come after me in the comments, I know a lot of people use this one. I know it's super popular. I know it's not the worst. It's not the worst quality, all right? I do think the Lancome one is better. I just think they're comparable. I just think Lancome's better. Your question is true or false.
Okay.
So you got a 50-50 shot here. The entire Forlorn Hope Party died in the mountains. True or false?
I feel like I'm gonna say true. I'm gonna say true, and it's probably false.
Is that your final answer?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the answer is false, meaning we will use
I could not live up to the 2200 hype. I just couldn't do it.
Yeah,
the first question just was like derailed me. Like, ah!
You came out strong. After a few days, the Forlorn Hope Party actually did reach a Native American settlement, and the whole ordeal lasted 33 days. So they took rations for 6 days, and the whole thing for them lasted 33 days. Of the 17 who started the trip, only 9 survived. So a lot of them did die, but not all of them. Reed, the one who was in charge of like the Reed party, and this was his big ass idea anyway, he actually broke through out of the mountains into Sutter's Fort. So there was hope. Next, we move on to the rescue. On February 4th, 1847, and actually did find the Donner Party. When they arrived to the party, Mary Murphy, who was one of the women who stayed behind, she looked at them and said, "Are you men from California, or do you come from heaven?" Which is like super crazy. Like, think about if you just saw this like super gaunt face like saying that, you'd be like, bitch, okay, shit. They tried to rescue 21 people in this first pass, but 3 died along the way, most of them being children. And there were 2 more rescues, and eventually the Donner Party did reach their destination in California. Of the people who reached Donner Lake and had to like stay there for the entire winter, only 48 people survived. So it was like about half of the people survived and half of them died. And a lot of them, after they died, their bodies were munched on. They were turned into jerky. Like, it just happened. Not just in the Forlorn Hope Party, also in the larger Donner Party, but it is what it is. I guess when you're desperate, you just kind of, you gotta do what you gotta do. The lake where the Donner Party was stranded is now known as Donner Lake, and it's a big tourist attraction too. They put cabins where like they were actually stranded and you could stay there now, which is like kind of uncomfy, but also I get it. In 1927, California created the Donner Memorial State Park, which has over 11 acres. And I guess if there's any lesson to be learned, it's that manifest destiny is shit. And if people didn't ask for your opinion, maybe you shouldn't travel west and force it on them. I like what we did here. The mascara got a little messy, but it's okay. It's fine. It'd be like that
I'm a
sometimes.
little messy.
Clearly. That is it for today's video, y'all. I didn't know we were gonna make it for a second, but we made it. We got here to the end.
We made it.
We made it.
We made it.
We made it. Anything that I did not explicitly mention in the video will be listed down below with the makeup I'm wearing and the makeup I used on Cierra today. If you want to look at my research, I also provided that down below so you can dig a little bit deeper and find out more about the Donner Party. There's a lot of information here that I had to cut out just for the sake of this video. So there's a lot of research you can do, and it's fun up until a point. Then it gets very sad.
Very sad.
Sorry. Thank you so much for stopping by. You look so defeated right now.
I'm just feeling a lot, you know?
Yeah.
I feel bad.
I get that.
But I'm also irritated, you know?
That is it for today. I will see you later. And remember, don't make up your history.